As the war in Ukraine has entered its second week, I present you with my latest Flashpoint and the second special on Ukraine. On Monday, it increasingly appeared that an adaptation of military tactics was underway. One that, from the Russian side, no longer targeted solely military targets, between parentheses, but increasingly focused, or at least affected, civilian targets as well. At that time on Monday, at least 9 people had been killed and 37 were injured after Russian forces launched multiple rocket strikes on the eastern Ukrainian city of Kharkiv, in what appeared to mark a change in tactics by Moscow towards bombing civilian areas. The city's mayor, Ihor Terekov, said the toll included the deaths of 3 children. Quote, "Today we had a very difficult day. It showed us that it's not just a war. This is a massacre of Ukrainian people." End quote. Terekov said this on his Telegram account. Another quote, "The missiles hit residential buildings, killing and injuring peaceful civilians. Kharkiv has not seen such damage for a very, very long time, and this is horrible." The heavy shelling was still believed to be on the way on Friday, 2 days ago. Despite heavy shelling and its proximity to the Russian border, Kharkiv is still believed to be under Ukrainian control. Ukrainian authorities said indiscriminate shelling on Wednesday had, quote, "pounded all night residential areas in Kharkiv, which UN prosecutors are investigating as a possible war crime. Many of the city's 1.5 million people have fled." On Tuesday, the news crossed the world that a huge Russian military convoy, stretching some 60 kilometers, was spotted by a US satellite imaging company just north of the Ukrainian capital Kiev. Satellite photos provided by Maxar, the US company, showed that the convoy, which had been massing since Sunday, had mushroomed to more than 60 kilometers of military vehicles. It said the column covered the entire stretch of road from near Antonov Airport, some 28 kilometers from the capital, to the town of Pribirsk, a distance of approximately 60 kilometers. Maxar also said that, along parts of the route, some vehicles are spaced fairly far apart, while in other sections military equipment and units are traveling 2 or 3 vehicles a breeze down the road. Quote, "A number of homes and buildings are seen burning north and northwest of Ivankiv, near the roads where the convoy is traveling." Maxar said its satellites had also captured images of additional ground forces, deployments, and ground attack helicopters units in southern Belarus, less than 30 kilometers north of the border with Ukraine. As I am recording this on Sunday, so far this convoy is not believed to have started engaging in military operations yet. On Wednesday, the rockets of Russians attacked and killed 3 people while injuring 16 others in Zhytomyr, including 7 children. The main directorate of the State Emergency Services of Ukraine in Zhytomyr region reported this on Facebook. Quote, "After the night enemy attack, there are casualties among the civilian population as a result of the explosion. 3 people died and 16 people, including 7 children, were injured and hospitalized," the statement said. According to the report, 12 people were rescued, including 6 children who were hiding in the basement during the explosions and were blocked. As a result of the explosion, 10 private houses were destroyed and damaged, 3 houses caught fire, 3 one-story shops were completely destroyed and 1 was damaged. The blast destroyed glass and windows in various buildings of the city hospital. Fires in private homes were put out, while emergency and rescue work was on the way. On Thursday, the first Ukrainian city fell as Russian strikes increasingly targeted civilian targets. Russian forces seized the southern city of Kherson and besieged other cities, with casualties and destruction mounting as Western sanctions tightened their vice grip on Russia's economy. Russian troops and tanks rolled into Kherson on the Dnieper River near the Black Sea, after days of intense fighting that left as many as 300 Ukrainian civilians and fighters dead, said the mayor and another senior Ukrainian government official who confirmed that it had fallen. Quote, "There is no Ukrainian army here," the mayor, Igor Kolikayev, said in an interview. "The city is surrounded." Other Russian columns besieged Kharkiv, the country's second largest city, and the port city of Mariupol, and most ominously a huge convoy of military vehicles stood north of Kiev, in apparent preparation for a major offensive. Russian troops have gained ground near Mariupol, while naval forces gathered offshore, raising fears of an amphibious assault on the city, where local officials said there was no power or heat. Mariupol lies on the Sea of Azov, a body bordered on three sides by Russia, which controls access to it. The port is part of a vital stretch of terrain Russia is apparently trying to capture, to link Russian-backed separatist enclaves in the southeast with Crimea, the southern peninsula Russia seized from Ukraine in 2014. That could trap the Ukrainian troops arrayed against the breakaway region in a pincer caught between Russian forces to the east and west. On Friday, a special diplomatic meeting was held between foreign ministers from NATO, the EU, Sweden, and Finland. Stoltenberg, on the issue of a no-fly zone, which was requested by Ukraine. NATO cannot implement a no-fly zone over Ukraine because it would mean NATO fighter jets would have to enter and implement this no-fly zone. This would mean NATO jets shooting down Russian MiGs, which would lead to a direct escalation between NATO and Russia. Ministers condemned Russia's brutal and unprovoked invasion of Ukraine and expressed solidarity and support for the courage of the Ukrainian people and armed forces. They addressed NATO's immediate response to the crisis. In addition to the thousands more troops that allies have already sent to the eastern part of the alliance, NATO is deploying its response force for the first time. It has over 130 jets at high alert and over 200 ships from the high north to the Mediterranean. Quote, "We will continue to do what it takes to protect and defend every inch of NATO territory," said Stoltenberg. Foreign ministers also discussed the need to support partners who may be at risk of the war in Ukraine spilling over, including Georgia and Bosnia and Herzegovina. Quote, "We are not part of this conflict," said Mr. Stoltenberg, adding, however, that NATO has, quote, "a responsibility to ensure it does not escalate and spread beyond Ukraine. That would be even more devastating and dangerous." The meeting was an opportunity for ministers to also address the longer-term implications of Russia's aggression for Euro-Atlantic security. The SecGen reiterated that Russia's aggression has created the new normal for our security, where fundamental principles are contested through the use of force. In this new normal, ministers agree that NATO's relationship with Russia had fundamentally changed for the long term, but they remain committed to keeping diplomatic channels open to avoid any unintended escalation, misunderstanding, or miscalculation. Most recent news, conditions in Mariupol are becoming increasingly more dire. I just saw in the news, like right before I started recording, that I believe a temporary ceasefire has been put in place in order for humanitarian goods to be able to be brought in, while civilians get a semi-safe opportunity to flee. Although I believe this was also the case yesterday, and I understood that, but this has been unverified, that while a civilian convoy was on the way out of Mariupol and they were halfway between Mariupol and a safer destination when Russian forces, basically when shootings started to occur, shellings perhaps maybe between the two militaries, and they had to retreat back to Mariupol. But like I said, this is unconfirmed. In Odessa, Ukraine's third largest city, people are preparing for the worst, starting to barricade shops, windows, access to the city. I've understood that everybody is working towards creating some kind of barrier surrounding the city to make it more hard for Russian forces to enter. This was your Global Security Flashpoint for the week ending on March 6th, 2022, and we look towards the week ahead. Monday and Tuesday, we'll see a showdown where the conflict between Ukraine and Russia will be opening up a new front, at the International Court of Justice in The Hague. The ICJ is the highest court for resolving disputes between states, and while cases there usually take years to resolve, it has a fast-track procedure to look at requests for, quote, provisional measures, such as those Ukraine has requested. The hearing will revolve around allegations of genocide under the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide, Ukraine v. Russia. The hearings are set to start on Monday, 10 a.m. local time, with Ukraine presenting its case, while on Tuesday, Russia is scheduled to respond. This has been your Global Security Flashpoint. See you all next week.